Emma lived in a small cottage at the edge of Millbrook Village, where the wind whispered stories of ordinary people and quiet struggles. Her family knew hardship better than most, a reality that touched every corner of their modest home. Robert Thompson, her father, had lost his job at the local factory months ago, leaving behind a sense of uncertainty that hung in the air like a heavy morning mist. Elizabeth, Emma's mother, worked long shifts at the town's only diner, her hands rough from washing dishes and carrying heavy trays. She would return home exhausted, but always managed a warm smile for her daughter. Emma, just 12 years old, understood more about life's challenges than most children her age. Every morning, she would help her mother prepare for work. The kitchen was small but clean, with faded yellow curtains and a worn wooden table that had seen better days. Emma carefully spread the last bits of strawberry jam on slightly stale bread, making lunch packages that would stretch their limited resources. The family's financial struggle was a delicate dance of survival. Emma had learned to mend her own clothes, carefully stitching small tiers and letting down hems to make things last longer. Her school shoes were scuffed but clean, a testament to her determination to maintain dignity despite their circumstances. At school, Emma tried to remain invisible. She knew the other children came from families with more money, with newer clothes and shinier things. But she held her head high, her intelligence and kindness shining brighter than any material possession. Her teachers noticed her potential, a bright mind trapped in challenging circumstances. Robert spent his days looking for work, walking miles between potential employers, his pride wounded but his spirit unbroken. He would return home with stories of near misses and small hopes. Sometimes he would sit in the old armchair by the window, watching the village street, wondering how life had brought him to this moment. Emma watched her parents closely. She understood their silent conversations, the way her mother would squeeze her father's hand, the way her father would force a smile to keep hope alive. They protected her from the full weight of their struggles, but Emma was perceptive beyond her years. On weekends, the family would take long walks together. They couldn't afford much, but they had each other. They would explore the countryside around Millbrook, picking wild berries and sharing stories. These moments were their treasure, free and abundant. One particular summer morning changed everything. As Emma helped her mother pack lunches, she discovered an old photograph hidden deep in the kitchen drawer. It was yellowed with age, slightly crumpled at the edges. The image seemed to hold a secret, a story waiting to be uncovered. The photograph showed a man standing near an old oak tree. He wore a worn worker's cap and held what looked like an important letter. Something about his eyes reminded Emma of her father, a mixture of determination and quiet sadness that spoke of untold stories. When Emma asked her mother about the photograph, Elizabeth's hands began to tremble. Her response was brief and dismissive, "It's nothing, dear." But Emma knew better. She could sense a hidden narrative, a family story waiting to be told. That night, as the summer crickets sang outside and the moonlight filtered through the thin curtains, Emma thought about the photograph. She wondered about the man, about the stories her family kept close to their hearts. Her curiosity burned bright, a small flame of hope in their challenging world. The cottage was quiet, but it was filled with love. Despite their financial struggles, the Thompson family had something more valuable: each other. Emma understood that wealth was not just about money, but about the strength of family, the power of hope, and the resilience of the human spirit. As she drifted off to sleep, Emma held on to the memory of the mysterious photograph. She didn't know it yet, but this simple piece of paper would become the key to unlocking a remarkable journey of discovery, healing, and unexpected possibilities. The night embraced the small cottage, and with it, the dreams of a young girl who believed that something wonderful could happen, even in the midst of life's most challenging moments. The morning light crept through the kitchen window, casting soft shadows across the worn wooden table. Emma carefully studied the old photograph she had discovered, her fingers tracing the edges of the yellowed paper. The man in the image seemed to look directly at her, his eyes holding a story that begged to be understood. Robert noticed his daughter's intense concentration. He watched her from the doorway, a cup of tea cooling in his hands. Emma looked up, her curiosity burning bright. "Dad," she asked softly, "who is this man in the photograph?" A moment of silence hung between them. Robert's expression changed, a mixture of pain and remembrance flickering across his face. He slowly walked to the table, sitting down beside Emma. His withered hands gently took the photograph, memories flooding back like a quiet river. "This," he said, his voice low and measured, "is my father." "Your grandfather." Emma leaned closer, her eyes wide with anticipation. She knew little about her grandfather, a mysterious figure who seemed to exist only in whispered conversations and hidden moments. Robert explained that her grandfather had been a factory worker, much like he had been before losing his job. The man in the photograph stood near an old oak tree on the outskirts of Millbrook, holding what appeared to be an important letter. His work clothes were worn but clean, his posture straight and proud despite the obvious hardships. Elizabeth entered the kitchen, sensing the moment. She watched her husband and daughter, a complex emotion crossing her face. Years of unspoken stories seemed to dance between them, secrets that had been carefully tucked away, waiting for the right moment to emerge. "Some stories," Elizabeth said quietly, "are best discovered slowly." Her hands began to prepare breakfast, moving automatically while her mind seemed to drift to distant memories. Emma noticed how her mother's hands trembled slightly, how her eyes looked far away. The photograph became a mystery that consumed Emma's thoughts. She carried it carefully in her notebook, examining it during quiet moments at school. The man's eyes seemed to hold wisdom, a silent strength that intrigued her. She wondered about the letter he was holding, about the stories that remained untold. Days passed, and Emma's curiosity grew. She began asking careful questions, watching her parents' reactions. Robert would sometimes share small details about factory work, about family traditions, about the importance of perseverance. Elizabeth would listen, sometimes adding a soft comment, sometimes remaining silent. At night, Emma would place the photograph on her small bedside table. She would look at it before falling asleep, imagining the stories behind the image. The man in the photograph seemed to watch over her, a silent guardian from another time. The village of Millbrook continued its quiet existence. People went about their daily lives, unaware of the journey of discovery happening in the small cottage at the edge of town. Emma felt like she was holding on to a secret, a piece of family history that was slowly coming to light. Her school friends noticed a change in her. Emma seemed more thoughtful, more distant. She carried herself with a new sense of purpose, as if she were carrying an important mission. The photograph had awakened something in her, a desire to understand her family's history, to uncover the hidden stories. Robert watched his daughter with a mixture of pride and concern. He recognized the same curiosity that had driven him throughout his life. Emma was becoming more than just a child, she was becoming a keeper of family memories, a bridge between past and present. As summer continued, the photograph became a bridge between generations. It connected Emma to a grandfather she had never known, to a family history that was waiting to be understood. Each day brought new questions, new possibilities. The mystery of the photograph hung in the air, a silent promise of stories yet to be told. Emma knew that some secrets take time to reveal themselves, that some memories are precious and delicate. She was patient, determined to uncover the truth, one careful step at a time. Night would fall over Millbrook, and the photograph would continue its silent watch, holding on to memories that were waiting to be discovered. The summer afternoon stretched lazy and warm across Millbrook. Emma sat at the kitchen table, her eyes fixed on her father. Robert seemed different today, more open, as if something inside him had shifted. The old photograph lay between them, a bridge connecting past and present. "Your grandfather was more than just a factory worker," Robert began, his voice soft but clear. "He was a man of dreams, of hope." Emma leaned forward, hanging on every word. She knew her father rarely spoke about family history, making this moment feel special and important. Robert explained how her grandfather had worked in the local factory for over 30 years. Every day, he would wake before sunrise, walking miles to work with a lunch packed by Emma's grandmother. Times were hard, but he never complained. Instead, he saved every penny, believing in a better future for his family. He had a dream, Robert continued, of sending his children to school, of giving them opportunities he never had. Emma could see the pride in her father's eyes, a reflection of a love that transcended generations. Her grandfather had sacrificed everything to create a better life for his family. The letter in the photograph, her father revealed, was a special document. It was a recommendation letter from his factory supervisor, acknowledging her grandfather's years of hard work and dedication. Such letters were rare in those times, a testament to his character and commitment. Elizabeth listened from the kitchen, preparing dinner. Her movements were slower, more deliberate. She added small details to Robert's story, filling in the spaces between his words. Emma realized how little she knew about her family's history, how many stories remained untold. As the afternoon light changed, casting long shadows across the kitchen floor, Robert shared more. He talked about family traditions, about the importance of resilience. Emma learned how her grandparents had survived difficult times, economic challenges, personal struggles, moments that could have broken lesser families. "We Thompsons," Robert said, looking directly at Emma, "we don't give up. We find a way." His words carried weight, a family motto passed down through generations. Emma felt a connection to her ancestors, to a strength she was just beginning to understand. The photographs seemed to come alive in their conversation. The man in the worn worker's cap was no longer just an image, but a real person with hopes, dreams, and struggles. Emma imagined him walking to work, saving money, believing in a better future. Outside, the village of Millbrook continued its quiet existence. Children played in the streets, neighbors chatted, life moved forward. But inside the Thompson cottage, a family was reconnecting with its roots, healing old wounds, understanding their shared history. Emma's perspective began to change. She saw her family's current struggles not as a defeat, but as part of a larger journey. Her grandfather had faced similar challenges, and he had persevered. Her parents were continuing that legacy of hope and determination. As evening approached, Robert pulled out an old family album. Dust-covered and worn, it contained photographs and documents that told their family's story. Emma carefully turned the pages, discovering connections, understanding the threads that bound her family together. Her mother joined them, sitting quietly and sharing occasional memories. Emma realized how much love existed in their small home, a love that had survived economic challenges, personal difficulties, and the passage of time. They were more than just a family, they were survivors. The mysterious photograph had become more than just an old image. It was a key, unlocking stories of courage, love, and resilience. Emma understood now that family history was not just about dates and facts, but about the emotions, struggles, and triumphs that connect generations. Night began to fall over Millbrook. The kitchen grew quiet, filled with a sense of understanding and connection. Emma looked at her parents, seeing them with new eyes, not just as her mother and father, but as part of a long line of strong, determined individuals. The photograph continued to rest on the table, a silent witness to a family's journey of discovery and healing. The summer morning arrived with unexpected promise. A letter waited in the mailbox, its crisp white envelope standing out against the faded wooden post. Robert's hands trembled slightly as he opened it, his eyes scanning the contents with growing excitement. An old friend from the factory, John Miller, had heard about Robert's job loss. He knew of an opportunity at a new workshop in town, a small carpentry business looking for skilled workers. It wasn't a grand position, but it was a chance to start again, to rebuild what had been lost. Emma watched her father's transformation. The lines of worry that had carved themselves into his face began to soften. His shoulders, which had been hunched with defeat, now straightened with a renewed sense of purpose. Hope, fragile but persistent, entered their home like a gentle breeze. Elizabeth noticed the change immediately. Her husband's eyes sparkled with something she hadn't seen in months: possibility. She prepared a special breakfast, her movements lighter, her smile brighter. The kitchen felt different, filled with an energy of potential. During dinner that evening, the family talked about the opportunity. Robert explained the workshop's needs: skilled carpentry work, attention to detail, reliability. These were qualities he possessed in abundance. Emma listened, understanding the significance of this moment. The workshop wasn't just a job. It represented more than money. It was a chance to rebuild dignity, to provide for his family, to prove that setbacks were not permanent. Emma saw her father's determination, a trait she recognized from the stories about her grandfather. Days passed, and Robert prepared for his interview. Emma helped him press his best shirt, carefully removing small wrinkles. Elizabeth packed a lunch, her hands moving with familiar love and support. The entire family was invested in this moment of potential transformation. Millbrook seemed to hold its breath. In a small village, everyone knew everyone's struggles. The community had watched the Thompson family navigate difficult times. Now, there was a sense of collective hope, a belief in second chances. The interview day arrived. Robert dressed carefully, the shirt Emma had pressed crisp and clean. His work boots, though old, were polished to a respectable shine. Emma watched him leave, sending silent prayers of support. Hours felt like days. Emma helped her mother clean the cottage, both of them lost in thoughts of possibility. Would this be the moment that changed everything? The uncertainty hung in the air, delicate and charged with emotion. When Robert returned, his face was unreadable. Elizabeth's hands clutched the kitchen towel, her breath caught between hope and fear. Emma stood perfectly still, watching her parents. A smile broke across Robert's face. He had gotten the job. The workshop needed someone with his exact skills, someone who understood craftsmanship, who could be reliable and dedicated. It wasn't a high-paying position, but it was steady work. More importantly, it was a chance to rebuild. That night, the Thompson family celebrated quietly. No grand gestures, just a shared meal and quiet conversations. Emma understood this was more than just a job, it was a restoration of hope, a reminder that life could change in unexpected moments. The old photograph of her grandfather seemed to watch over them, a silent witness to another chapter of family resilience. Emma realized that hope wasn't about grand gestures, but about small, consistent steps forward. Outside, Millbrook continued its quiet existence. But inside the Thompson cottage, a new chapter was beginning. A chapter of renewal, of hope, of understanding that challenges were temporary, but family strength was permanent. As night fell, Emma looked at her parents, tired but hopeful, challenged but unbroken. She understood now the true meaning of resilience, of love, of believing in possibilities even when the world seemed dark. The letter that had arrived that morning was more than just a job opportunity. It was a testament to the power of persistence, of believing in oneself, of never giving up. Hope, Emma realized, was the most powerful force in the world. Summer turned into autumn, and the Thompson family's life began to change. Robert's new job at the workshop brought more than just money, it brought dignity and purpose. His skilled hands, which had been idle for months, now created beautiful wooden pieces that brought joy to their small community. Emma watched her father transform. The worry lines that had carved themselves into his face softened. His eyes regained a spark she had missed during their hardest times. Each evening, he would come home with stories about the day's work, a chair repaired, a table restored, small victories that meant everything. Elizabeth reduced her shifts at the diner, no longer needing to work as many hours. She began to pursue her own small dream, baking cookies for the local community center. Her recipes, passed down through generations, became a source of comfort for many in Millbrook. The cottage seemed to breathe differently. Laughter returned more frequently. Emma noticed how her parents looked at each other, a quiet understanding, a deep love that had survived their most challenging times. They had weathered the storm together, emerging stronger. School became an exciting journey for Emma. Her improved family situation allowed her to focus more on her studies. Her teachers noticed her increased confidence, her ability to dream bigger. She began to understand that challenges were not permanent, they were opportunities for growth. The old photograph of her grandfather continued to hold a special place in their home. It now sat in a small frame on the living room shelf, a reminder of their family's journey. Emma would often look at it, understanding the connection between past and present. Weekends became special family times. They would take long walks in the countryside, picking wild berries, sharing stories. Robert would tell Emma about woodworking, about the importance of patience and skill. Elizabeth would share family recipes, teaching Emma about their heritage. The community of Millbrook noticed the change in the Thompson family. People would stop Robert to compliment his work, or Elizabeth to praise her delicious cookies. Emma became known as a bright, hopeful student with a kind heart. As winter approached, the family reflected on their journey. They had survived not just through luck, but through love, determination, and mutual support. The challenges they had faced had not broken them, they had made them stronger. Emma began to understand the true meaning of family strength. It wasn't about having everything perfect. It was about supporting each other, believing in each other, finding hope in the smallest moments. The old photograph of her grandfather became more than just an image. It was a symbol of their family's resilience. Each generation had faced challenges, each generation had found a way forward. Emma was continuing that legacy. On Christmas Eve, the family gathered around their small fireplace. The cottage was warm, filled with the smell of Elizabeth's baking and the sound of soft music. Robert showed Emma a small wooden box he had crafted, a gift that represented everything they had learned. "Life is like this wood," he told her, running his hand over the smooth surface. "Sometimes it's rough, sometimes it needs careful work. But with patience and love, you can create something beautiful." Emma understood. Their family's journey was not about avoiding difficulties, but about how they faced those difficulties together. The photograph, the stories, the love, these were their true treasures. As the year came to a close, the Thompson family looked forward with hope. They had learned that strength comes from love, from supporting each other, from believing in possibilities. The cottage stood quiet, but filled with warmth. Outside, Millbrook slept under a blanket of snow. Inside, a family's love continued to shine, a beacon of hope, a testament to the power of resilience. Emma knew their story was far from over. It was just beginning.